Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Huddy Withrow underway. The Monday edition.
Another week
has arrived.
We made it.
Super Bowl week is here, Chad. Good afternoon.
That long, boring week in between championship games and the Super Bowl is over,
and
everyone.
Weekend.
It's done. It's dead. No more. And now we're here for Super Bowl week. I'm thrilled.
John McClain will join us coming up in about 40 minutes or so. Looking forward to discussing the matchup, plus all of the surrounding headlines across the NFL. And Andrew Brandt will be with us later in today's show, the business side of the Super Bowl, but also sports in general. There's a lot to get to, including NCAA and, well, college football programs.
Andrew's great on just about every topic. Coaches hire, GM decisions, college football legal issues.
He's been in the front office, and he's been on the agent side.
He's awesome.
It's fantastic. Chad, there is a ripple effect to the weekend, even though we didn't see much football. I certainly wasn't watching much this past weekend. I would say there's a ripple effect with the number one overall pick in the NFL draft based on some of the headlines that were out there. Starting with Cliff Kingsbury, which we'll hit on in a moment. But Caleb Williams, you know, there was a rumor circulating, maybe some chatter, some quiet chatter about whether or not Caleb Williams was to play for the Chicago Bears, who owned the number one overall pick, with Washington right behind them at pick number 2. And on Coward, on Friday, Colin Coward, you had Coward say Caleb Williams and his camp, they don't want to go to Chicago. And it took less than a day for Williams and his camp to reach out and say, but wait, no, that's not what we're saying. This is the quote from Colin Coward, who said, so I got a call from Caleb Williams and their camp, and they went, whoa. We don't want to be painted as anti-Chicago. We don't want to be painted as anti-Bear. And they made it clear to me that they said, listen, we don't want to go to a city that doesn't care. Chicago cares. They're big, loud, passionate. They fire coaches all the time, and they care. And they did say that there's a path to succeed in Chicago. It's called the Houston Texans. The defensive coach, you get a couple of weapons, cap space, good pick. They mentioned they've got a second pick in the first round. They do at 9 overall. It's a bunch of good receivers there. They could go get another weapon and have a bona fide number one pick in Caleb Williams. We say this because I think most of front offices believe that Caleb Williams is going number one overall. I'm not sure that everyone believes Chicago is going to be holding that pick. Why? Well, because Caleb Williams is going to be that pick. And we still don't know about Justin Fields, although it feels like they're going to go in the Williams/Drake May direction. But, Chad, I still believe where there's smoke, there's fire. This started prior to the start of the season, where it was floated out there, but maybe it was from his dad. I'm not sure who initially got it going. Williams didn't say this specifically, but that he may not want to play for the team with the number one overall pick. There's some teams he doesn't want to play for. And we've seen this in the past. Eli Manning didn't want to play for the Chargers. Okay. Chad, I still think that card's going to be played somehow. I think there's going to be more to this than where it is currently. And the assumption was it was Arizona. Because Arizona was going to be bad. And, well, everyone thought, well, maybe Caleb doesn't want to play for the Arizona Cardinals. Now it's Chicago number one. And looking around, it's Williams and Drake May and the Senior Bowl and the responses that I had just from sending some texts out from people that were there all week. This is a very average quarterback class comparing each other, meaning there wasn't a quarterback that went to Mobile and separated in a good way or a bad way. And sometimes you can just separate from the pack because the rest of the group is not as good as you are. They look worse. That didn't even happen. And because of that, I think there's going to be either Chicago's taking him number one or they're going to get a haul for him because it's him and Drake May and the rest of everyone else this April.
You know, the immediate assumption was when Cliff Kingsbury spurned the Raiders to go to Washington was, and I remember seeing the news, I'm coaching softball over the weekend, looked down to check Twitter, and I see the news, and I was talking with some other parents about it saying, I feel like Cliff Kingsbury's not settled yet in Vegas, and boom, you get the Schefter bomb that says that he's going to Washington to be the offensive coordinator when he pulled out of that job, the immediate assumption is, okay, he's got the relationship with Caleb Williams. They're the number 2 pick. They're going to trade up and get Caleb Williams. But Hutton, I agree with you that I feel like there's another twist or turn in this story about what really is going on. How strong is the relationship with Cliff Kingsbury and Caleb Williams? I don't know.
Well,
from their time together at USC.
Well, they Caleb Williams retweeted or posted on Instagram on his reel, "My dog, congrats!" Whenever it was announced that Kingsbury was headed to the Commanders, and I immediately thought same thing. Well,
they're going to
he's an analyst at USC. They have the number 2 pick. Are they about to flip-flop and guarantee that they're going to get number 1? Or is Chicago going to take Drake May? Again, all hypotheticals here, but what I am thinking is Ben Johnson turned them down. And there's more to that story too. But is it possible that the structure is more than just the basketball guys in the structure, the hierarchy, the chain of command with the Washington Commanders, and that they're going Drake May or Caleb Williams and not going a certain way based on what Ben Johnson wants? Or they are so set on Caleb Williams, they're going to go all in to try to get that top pick. I view it as this isn't just, it's Chicago's pick, they hold it. But this isn't just Chicago's pick. This is also, it feels like Caleb Williams' pick in a weird way. Now that Kingsbury is the OC in Washington, because he was taking the Vegas job until he wasn't. And while he never signed the paperwork, Washington came in late and then started to get those conversations going a day before he ends up bailing and taking the Commanders' job over the Raiders.
I think it would have been reported if it was something where the Commanders had their mind made up on something quarterback-wise and Ben Johnson hated it, and that's why he turned them down and went elsewhere. Every report has been he was asking for way too much money and they weren't willing to pay him for whatever reason, which, by the way, if it's 16, 17 million or whatever the figure was, if you really like Ben Johnson, well, they got that money. They could have paid him had they wanted to. So I don't know that it's that.
Well, there's another report that he was turned off by Washington's ownership group for being basketball guys.
Yeah, and so, but again, that's a separate story that has nothing to do with he was turned off by the fact they were all in on Caleb Williams and he's not.
Well,
or he was turned off by the fact they wanted to do this, or maybe he wanted Caleb Williams.
This is just my personal hypothetical here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I'm in why would the offensive guru that everyone apparently wants turn down the job? And then Kingsbury bolt on the Raiders for Washington. And it was all based on just Caleb Williams responding to Kingsbury on social. But I'm tying things together, and now they've got the number 2 pick, and Caleb Williams and through his family, one way or the other, has been putting, or if he hasn't been, they're not really shooting down anything other than the number 1 overall pick that we saw Coward throw out there, that he didn't want to be in Chicago. But the fact that they're jumping on to defend that hey, we would say we don't want to be in Chicago, compared to the way this was in August or September, is way different. And I still think we're going to circle back to it at some point. Because
there's a team.
It's going to be dramatic.
There's a team that clearly they didn't want to go to. I feel like you were right when you said it's the Cardinals.
I think so.
Because that was the one that was trending maybe to have the number 1 pick. So I do think there's probably one of the 32 teams that they had in mind that may be picking number 1. They absolutely did not want to go to that organization. I don't think it's the Bears. I don't think it's the Commanders with new ownership either for Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be fine with either one of those spots. So the Ben Johnson thing is baffling to me because, we get the thing that he was turned off by the quote-unquote basketball guys with Magic Johnson and Bob Myers being a part of it. Okay, there can be some personality differences. There can be some philosophical differences. When you're hearing from guys from a different sport thinking, why are these guys even in the room? What's going on? I don't like what's happening here. I can understand some of those things, but I don't know that we've got our mind made up as an organization already on exactly who we should draft as the quarterback until Cliff Kingsbury left the Raiders for the Commanders. And now I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. He's gotten word that we are going to, and maybe it's Drake May or Caleb Williams. Hey, we're drafting a quarterback. Do you want to come mold a rookie quarterback and be the guy that runs this offense to do that? Or do you want to stay there with Aiden O'Connell and is Jimmy Garoppolo coming back or not, coming off the injury? Do you want to stay there in that situation?
Out, I think.
Or come start here with a rookie quarterback if you like either one of these guys. It could be either one of those scenarios, but I believe something's up with they're going to trade up and get Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. That's my immediate assumption.
They would be trading Fields to go select Williams if it's Chicago, and if it's not, then you could. We've seen it where you can see the number 2 overall selection trade up to 1 just to guarantee that another team's not going to jump ahead of it. The other thing that came to mind: what's up? What is it about Cliff Kingsbury?
That's a great question.
And why don't we see more teams jump into the college ranks the way that he's been able to circulate this way? You got Chip Kelly, who's practically begging for a job as an OC, right? Like as of last week, and Kingsbury's got 2 offers. He had more offers than Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, it's baffling to me. Also, watching the Johnny Manziel doc, Cliff Kingsbury did not come off great in that documentary. Kevin Sumlin did not come off well in that documentary. They came off as 2 guys that just kind of let, for lack of a better phrase, the inmates run the asylum within that program and didn't do a lot to help Johnny Manziel during his time there. And I'm thinking, if you watch that, is this the guy you want to hire to lead your organization? Probably not. Now, bring him in as an OC, okay.
Right.
If he's some genius play caller, then do it. But I don't see genius play caller when I look at Cliff Kingsbury either. I'm with you, Hutton. I think it's pretty crazy to think about the opportunities Kingsbury has been given and continues to get, and that he had the opportunity to let 2 different places battle it out for his services and accept one job and then turn it down and take another one, and he had his choice between the 2. It's pretty crazy.
This was a Dan Quinn type move, though, because they got involved with Kingsbury after Quinn's hire, but really, I mean, last minute, where if it's, he doesn't have the reports out, I don't believe, about the Vegas job if he's waiting on Quinn to land somewhere and he's taking the job immediately. They jumped on him at the 11th hour.
I want to see what Washington is now. And that's as general as I can put it. But the perception of Washington, that franchise, is Dan Snyder's Washington, former Redskins, now Commanders, and it is a bleep show at all times. I don't know that now under Josh Harris. I just don't know what they are. It's so hard to identify what's going on there. Chicago, I feel like I can pretty easily identify the situation, right? They're in between stadiums right now. Same could be said about Washington, but in between stadiums, they need this coach to work out. They did improve some this season. The quarterback looked better as the year went on. They really need the quarterback to work out, but they don't quite know yet if he's ultimately going to work out. You're kind of an influx situation. I don't know what Washington's trying to do right now. Within the NFC East, where they are, they need a quarterback. They've got a new owner. They've got a new head coach coming in. What's the plan? What does that organization now look like? Because it's one of the bedrock organizations in the NFL. If they can get it right with a new owner who's going to spend, and cares about it and is competent, unlike the previous owner, that could be a great situation for someone.
Washington has the money in free agency and the salary cap room. Chicago has the draft picks. There's a big difference. They're going young based on the top draft picks that they have. They're similar but different. You've got Chicago, who got rid of practically every coach they possibly could except for their head coach in Eberflus. They bring him back. They hire Shane Waldron to be their offensive coordinator after kicking Getsy to the curb. And maybe rightfully so, but Getsy's buddies with Justin Fields even off the field, and they're going to either trade him and get another haul, or they keep him and they're still. It just feels like they're in between coaches. They didn't dive in this offseason. It feels like that's coming though, as they get their structure the way they want it, and maybe some stability at certain positions, even maybe in the front office. Washington, meanwhile, they have pieces. But they don't have the stability, enough talent up front, Jad, to say, they're turning things around immediately. And they don't have the quarterback. But
Yeah, and they're in a situation now where I don't believe that no-brainer quarterback exists in this draft.
Well, can I type?
I like Drake May better than Caleb Williams, but I'm not going to sit here and go out on a limb and say any of these guys are surefire, no doubt. You take them, they're going to be a difference maker for your team.
Let me tie one more connection in between Arizona and Washington now. The former head coach in Arizona is Cliff Kingsbury. And all of a sudden, where did we see the rumors start to circulate? It was right after, a couple months after they hired Jonathan Gannon, who replaced said coach. And now the former coach in Arizona is now the offensive coordinator in Washington. Maybe it's too good to be true for Washington to plan all this, and it's a pipe dream. Maybe they're simply they're going to stick with Howell. They're not going to do that. Maybe they want Drake May when it's all said and done. Chad, I know you're higher on May than
I'm
Williams.
higher on Drake May, but I'm not going to sit here and do backflips over any of these guys. I'm not thrilled about the prospect of any of them, quite frankly. I like May better than Caleb Williams, but that's not to say I think May is Trevor Lawrence when he was coming out of the draft, which hasn't quite yet worked out the way we thought, but not bad.
Yeah, good, not great.
But it's not that there's not that type of prospect in my mind coming out in this year's draft at quarterback.
Commanders finished 23rd in offensive points per game. 19 points per game is what they averaged. Chad, more points in the Pro Bowl yesterday, although I mean,
were there?
I didn't watch, but I saw like 3 highlights.
I haven't seen a thing. I have not watched a second of the Pro Bowl. I was at a restaurant celebrating my Aunt Mitzi's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Aunt Mitzi.
Yeah,
we love you.
Mitzi.
Everybody here at Hot Mike loves you. And the game was even on at the bar. At the restaurant I was at, I didn't even glance over and look at it. I feel like my life is all the better for it. This is a sham. It's a sham, and I'm amazed that this many people buy into it every year. Because every year we make fun of it. And every year it pulls a really good number on a Sunday afternoon when not much else is going on as people get ready for the Super Bowl. I don't know what the format was. I don't know if it was tackle, if it was flag, if it was two-hand touch. I don't know who coached in the game. I don't know who won. I don't know if it was AFC versus NFC or offense versus defense or receivers versus linemen or NBA versus NFL. I have no clue. At one point, I did accidentally track my gaze over to the television.
Watch out.
And I saw a women's game on at one point, a women's flag football game. I have no idea who the female athletes were that were playing. I have no idea if all of them were female based on the way sports are going right now, or some of them were male. I don't have any idea what happened in that game, and I do not feel like I lost out in the least bit. There may be national sports talk shows today recapping or discussing the format of the Pro Bowl or what they saw in the broadcast or any of that. This is not one of those. This is a show that will tell you, do not waste your time watching that game. Life is short. Find something else to do on a Sunday. Get outside if the weather is conducive to doing that. Go run errands. Fix things around your house. Do anything but watch the Pro Bowl. But after I say that, Hutton, I know that millions of people probably tuned in and watched the Pro Bowl once again.
Chad, this is the yet another branch on the NFL's money tree.
And they just pick, pluck, $100 bills left
I
and
laughed
right.
whenever you said you didn't know if it's tackle or flag. Even if it was tackle, it would be flag.
Yeah. Two-hand touch.
It's going to be flag moving forward, not the league, but the investment. I believe they hired an executive to oversee flag football initiatives for the league. And the reason for that is...
Man, what a hell of a job.
Well, it's going to be in the Olympics.
I didn't know.
In 28. It's going to debut in Los Angeles.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, what a great job if you're just, what is your gig? I'm an executive in the NFL at the league office. What do you do? I oversee flag football operations for the NFL. That sounds awesome.
Well, they can own their own version of the Little League baseball, except you've got the flag. And also, you're going to have the intermediary between the Olympics and NFL players. They want NFL players, the Olympics do, to participate in the Olympic Games.
This is a hill I'm willing to die on.
Okay.
I've discussed it on the show before, and I think Davey thinks I'm crazy and most everyone else. But Early
Most
on,
everyone
maybe not. Early on, maybe not. Maybe Tyreek Hill and a mishmash collection of NFL talent will go out there and dominate the rest of the world in flag football. But I warned the United States of America. I warned them before. I'll warn you again. There is a team in Hungary or in Romania or in Kenya or somewhere that their sole purpose every day when they awake is to form the best flag football operation going. And they're going to do so with the same 10 to 15 men every day for years. And they are going to perfect flag football. While America has perfected and will continue to perfect tackle football. American tackle football. Sorry, Colin, not the other football. American tackle football is different from flag football. This is a fair warning. The U.S. will be embarrassed by someone, maybe not in this Olympics. They're going to get beat by some country that everyone's going to say, how in the hell did the United States of America lose to X country, Finland, in flag football? And the reason is going to be that Finland put resources into it and had the same group of people only playing flag football for 4 straight years. It's why eventually the All-NBA team at the Olympics lost to Puerto Rico, followed by Argentina, because they had teams that played together all the time, and they were a better team. Someone in the world, a country will form a better flag football team than the United States of America. Mark my words.
How did we do at the 3-on-3 basketball this past Olympic Games? Do you know?
That's a good question.
We don't even know the format yet for the flag. That won't be released until
Let's find the results
2 years
for that.
prior.
You've got me interested now.
2 years prior to the games is when it's expected to be released, according to NBC.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm saying that's the warning if we decide to go NFL All-Star team with that. I think if you take a collection of guys fresh out of college, not in the NFL, or guys who just played 6 years in the NFL that are out, and you put them together and you say you are going to master flag football together for the next 2 years, they're going to destroy everyone in the world if you do that. But I think if you throw it together quickly and you just say, hey, Tyreek Hill's a better receiver than anyone else in the world. While that's true, in American tackle football, there's going to be a team that's going to operate and function better than that NFL All-Star team. Mark my word. And people think I'm crazy when I bring this up.
We will,
I don't get a lot of support when I talk about this.
We will play this back in the Olympic Games of 2050.
I will admit, give me 2 Olympics, so 8 years from now, we're going to see if this is true. Give me 2 Olympics, but if they do the NFL All-Star team both times, they will get embarrassed by someone at some point because they're going to do nothing but play flag football.
Well, by then, maybe the NFL's flag.
It's
trending. They have their executive.
That tracks. Trending that way.
Yeah. It is. They're even looking at the XFL kickoff rules, looking at the injury list of that.
And you're going to have...
I mean, it's going to be a totally different... It already is a different game.
You're going to have a team from Uruguay come in against the United States flag football team, and they're going to have the Herb Brooks speech from Miracle before they play. And they're going to tell them,
their version of Al Michaels.
I'm sick and tired of hearing about the Americans and their football and their American football.
And these flags.
Their time is over. It's done. It's our time
pull their
now.
flags.
It's our time now. It's our time. And Uruguay is going to beat the United States.
Davey, you have the 3-on-3 results for the Olympic Games.
I do.
The debut of 3-on-3.
So they actually only had 8 teams compete in this, but Latvia took the gold medal.
There you go.
Followed by the Russian Olympic Committee. I can't remember. It's just the ROC. Remember, Russia was banned from actually competing as a country, but they allowed their athletes to continue, but not under the Russian flag. And then Serbia got bronze.
Like my rule, the Russians competed.
Yeah, and Serbia got bronze, so the Americans didn't even medal.
They didn't participate.
The women got gold. Did we not qualify?
Ice Cube has a league. We didn't participate?
We must have not qualified.
There were only 8 teams outside of the ones that medaled: Belgium, Netherlands, Japan, Poland, and the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, certainly then we had to have sent a team to try to qualify and couldn't even finish in the top 8.
I don't know. That's the next
that's
research mission.
Shout out to American women taking home the gold in that 3-on-3 competition.
And if
beating, by the way, true patriots will love this. Russia and China.
Yeah.
The women's medal stand was America gold, Russia silver, and China bronze. That's great.
Chad, what is the latest from your network and sources on all of the chatter. I've talked to several friends in Knoxville about the lawsuit from the state of Tennessee and the Attorney General in regards to the NCAA. And I cannot, for the life of me, wrap my head around why the NCAA chose this battle. Because hour by hour, it seems like there's a new PR middle finger to the NCAA and what they were attempting to do, which is coming nowhere close to accomplishing anything that would be in their favor.
There's just this mounting resentment against the NCAA from all sides, not just Tennessee Vols Athletic, but not just Tennessee and Virginia, the states that have filed antitrust lawsuits, just everyone. I'm not hearing any defense coming for the NCAA on this. Even rivals of Tennessee or anyone else that's being investigated, there's no one coming forward and saying, oh, yeah, you need to crack down on what they're doing over there, because they're all smart enough now. College sports fans, I do think they're getting smarter. They know, hey, everybody's doing this. We got guys that got paid to transfer here, got paid to come here, and they had an agreement, whether it be handshake, contractual, whatever, that here's what you're going to make in NIL to come play at this school. Everyone's aware of that now, but apparently the NCAA isn't. And they're trying to do this selective enforcement of certain programs, and they're trying to bag a collective, and they want to bag Spire Sports in Knoxville. They're not going to be able to do it. I think it's a very buttoned-up organization. Everyone I've talked to believes the same thing. They don't have anything. You had both Danny White and Donde Plowman at Tennessee saying you haven't implicated one University of Tennessee employee in any violation of any kind. So what are we talking about here? It is an awful reach, an awful move by the NCAA. Hutton, it almost feels like suicide by the NCAA.
Well,
like they're trying to end their own organization with college football, or this is, or, hey, we're going to spark the revolution so everyone can then – but for someone that's afraid of lawsuits, I don't know why they would do that, because it sparked a lawsuit.
Well, it also sparked unity between the Big Ten and the SEC.
It did,
and
which we didn't know would ever happen.
There are plenty of reasons, but it does behoove Sankey and Petiti to actually look towards the NCAA model and think, you know what, we need to keep something together with this. That's the parachute, is you have the two most powerful commissioners actually getting in a room and bringing others in to hear what's going on as a committee to try to find some solution, not every solution, just a solution in regards to this. And I think the NCAA is not going to get that done. No one's going to listen to them. But with Sankey Petiti, they will. And the NCAA does have that tournament, that $1 billion tournament that takes place in March. I think from that perspective, you still want. Can't you see a version of this existing, and it's still called whatever you want to call it, but it's vastly different structure-wise, but you still have they are a nonprofit. Let's put it that way. And
even that,
you're not paying players as employees. They have that too. There's no union yet.
There's not a lot of complaints about the NCAA basketball tournament, right? It's right. We all unite around it for a month. It's awesome.
And if you take the two conferences out, that diminishes it and the conferences.
But I'll beg to ask this question, right? We know it because the NCAA has been a part of it. They make a ton of money off of it. They put a lot into it.
Right.
Am I going to sit here and say that the NCAA is the only one who could govern college basketball and the only organization or group of people that could put on a tournament to that level? No. I mean, that might get taken from them also if they keep playing this hand that doesn't exist for them. You know it's going poorly for you when attorney generals are using sarcasm and wit against your own statements from your attorneys. Because Jonathan Skermetti, the attorney general for the state of Tennessee, who we had on this program over the weekend, said, reading the filings from the NCAA, apparently they know state of Tennessee NIL laws better than me, the attorney general of Tennessee. And I'm here to tell you they don't, because none of this makes sense of what they're arguing. That's bad. That's how you know your legal argument is going poorly.
Well, but also, I don't think the tournament is just two conferences come together, add some more teams, and you've got the same version of it. There's a feel to it. There's also just the drama, the Cinderella. You can't replicate that Is Vandy the Cinderella in the new structure? You see what I'm saying?
No, you got to have the smaller schools too. But my point is, I think it's all separate. I think there is a scenario. This is like the Avengers Endgame scenario where the NCAA ceases to exist because of their own stupidity and hypocrisy. And there is a governing body for football at the highest level, and then there's a governing body for basketball that governs 330 basketball schools. I think it's now up to like 360.
But you're saying they don't report to anyone else?
No,
at the very top.
There's going to be someone else governing all of college basketball. There's going to be someone else governing all of college baseball.
But there's
every
no
sport's going to have their own.
But there's no umbrella on top of
every
everything.
sport will have different rules, different qualifications to be the highest level. All of that, and they'll run themselves, within the constraints of what the Supreme Court said is legal and illegal about name, image, likeness, and not trying to do things that are illegal.
But I think the one thing in the way of doing that is Title IX, and that's why you have the NCAA structure overseeing Again, the version I'm talking about here is different than the one I said is powerless, because they are. You enforce some stability by overseeing everything, where you do offer, if you have the wall that's up with Title IX from keeping you from doing just that, Chad, where you have the haves and the have-nots for programs that bring in the profit, those that don't, whatever. And it would keep the individual universities from just branching off and calling the football club instead of the football program. If you have so many programs at a university, and where I went to college, we didn't have a men's soccer team, but we also didn't match the football program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the one hurdle that you have to be able to do if you want to. In this case, everyone's trying to avoid a lawsuit.
I don't know many people that are itching for this in-game scenario I'm discussing. I, for one, am not clamoring for the Big Ten and the SEC to break away and have some 40-team super conference that only competes against each other. I like college football the way it is. What everyone needs is for the NCAA to just remain silent right now until either they or someone else comes up with rules. They shrink that NCAA rule book, but hard and fast rules and everything that governs the sports. And they're different for every sport. If that happens and we can get college basketball the way it is now, college football the way it is now, all those things, I'm all for it. But that's a Pollyanna view. It's not going to happen because the money eventually is going to win out. And when the NCAA is making dumb moves, like trying to investigate Tennessee, hoping they're going to turn everything over and just say, all right, yeah, give us probation again. When they do dumb things like that, and that's the expectation, that no one's going to want to play with them anymore.
Now, I do understand what you're saying with we're not clamoring for the super. We kind of have the super conference. There are two commissioners right now who say we're going to join this, we're going to form this, and everyone else can just participate.
There are two conferences that their games matter more than everyone else.
Yeah, that's
on
the
Saturday.
super conference combined.
They
just formed it, really.
Yeah.
I
like the idea of someone in the ACC being really good, right? Or the argument of Florida State.
Absolutely.
Hey, I wish the Pac-12 was still around. We'd have someone on the West Coast that's a power, and the Big 12 could do something. I don't know how much they're going to do now that Texas and Oklahoma's no longer there, but you get my point. I like that idea of the different conferences, regionality, all of that. But we're headed to something very different. We're headed to something that's way more like the NFL in its structure.
And at least we have some type of communication now. Even if we're a ways away from having the structure that's different from anything that we're. Right now, there is a roadblock at every turn with this. There's a lot of questions. There is a lot of debate. There's not many answers being thrown out. Not many solutions. Not brainstorming. No one has a really great solution that pops into mind whenever they're discussing what the NCAA is trying to do or what the collectors are trying to do. Yeah, there has to be the middle ground, and there's no solution to get there yet.
No, and it's perplexing to me though that the NCAA, it's just such an odd card to play at this point in the game.
I agree.
That's what throws me off so much. If you really want to remain in power, you have to throw your hands up and say, guys, you want us to investigate who when it comes in? This is going on everywhere.
Right.
And the Supreme Court is saying it's legal. So I like what Tom Mars said about it over the weekend on Twitter. He said this is the equivalent of saying, hey, chancellors, athletic directors, coaches, you can go accept a job anywhere else, but you're not going to know what you're getting paid until you accept it. After you accept it, then they're going to tell you what they're going to pay you. That's not the way things work. You can go to schools and you should be able to meet with a collective and find out what your value is to that school at that time. And then, weigh that against other opportunities. If this is allowed, and it is allowed, and it's legal because the Supreme Court said so, they should be allowed to do that.
I'm with you. John McClain's coming just around the corner. Chad, have you manscaped for the trip to Vegas?
I have not yet because it's not quite yet Valentine's Day. Hudden.
Okay.
We're getting close to Valentine's Day.
All right. We can.
Manscaped has a Valentine's Day little poetry for you.
All right.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Trim your balls, and your date will thank you. Valentine's Day is knocking, gentlemen, and Manscaped is the remedy for what the Love Doctor ordered. His prescription, the all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game and shine like the heartthrob you are. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com, snag 20% off plus free shipping with the code HOTMIC, HOTMIC. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code HOTMIC at manscaped.com.
He is the Love Doctor, and it's everything the doctor ordered. Manscaped.com, 20% off plus free shipping. The code HOTMIC. Chad, spell that for me one more time.
HOT. I don't have to look at the page.
Good.
HOT.
Get rid of that.
MIC. I was a geography bee champion in the state of Tennessee in 5th grade. I could be a spelling bee champion too. Again, that spelling, HOTMIC, code HOTMIC.
It's almost Valentine's Day. Get ready.